Hello, everyone. Ray Newman's Farewell, My King podcast. I'm here with the Beethoven of books, Wade J. Carey. How you, Wade?
How we doing?
And myself, third string theologian, Evan Ray Newman's, formerly known as Ray, or sometimes known as Edwin. So, thank you for joining us today. I know we haven't done a lot of posting here lately as far as the YouTube page, but we have been communicating. It is December. Today is the 23rd, if I'm correct. Yes. We are doing a year-end recap and review of Farewell, My King, the podcast, and the author page for Wade. And we're just going to, I think me and Wade said this a few times that, you're a conspiracy theorist until you're right. And then you were just ahead of the group. So with that being said, I just want to share my screen over here. And let me present this. Share screen. Okay. So this might be a little difficult to see, but I made it as big as I possibly can. So we run a Facebook page for Wade's author page, and I just wanted to give everyone like the backdoor look of what we do. Now, December, historically, we have posted a little bit less often. If you've been following us, you know that Wally's taken over the page, for December. But when it really boils down to it, we usually try to post at least one day a week, Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday. Wade maybe does a pizza post, at some time or another. But just you could screen as I just keep scrolling down. Posts reach 95, posts reach 75, 40, 59, 12. And this is just the last 90 days. I won't have end of the year stuff, Wade, until until the year's actually done, where I can do a year in review with Facebook. But we have done well over 250 posts on Facebook. We have featured 7 of the 10 books for this year. And roughly, just looking at the 90-day numbers, and that would be the last 90 days, we've reached, and the post reach is well over into the 3,000 or 4,000.
Wow!
So for the year, it would be a pretty big impact. As far as the YouTube page, which most people right now are watching this on, we've 14 or 15 videos that we have shot this year, and that created the videos themselves, and I created some shorts, so we're probably at 25 short, with the shorts. That does include the budgeting workshop. We have a full budgeting workshop on the YouTube page that anyone can access for free. This is the same budgeting workshop that Wade does with his local church, River Hills, and can do at any church. We step through the whole budgeting book that he's created, which is his background, the heart of budgeting. And it takes, just a little bit of time for you to get a lot of information on that. So I would say at this time of the year, when people are off and maybe have a little bit more time to thumb through a longer series of stuff, I would say that going to our YouTube page and actually taking a look at that budgeting would be something that would be beneficial for everyone. So now that I've gotten done with the formalities, how do you get a hold of Wade? Well, Wade's got a website, wadejcarey.com. Of course, our Facebook page is Wade J. Carey /author. And we're here on YouTube. YouTube, it is Farewell, My King. And you can see everything we've done. And really, I wanted to take the first part of this to thank Wade for stepping into this arena. I am usually the antagonist on stuff when it comes to some of this, and I know it takes a lot of time. We're very busy. We both have full-time jobs. We don't get, we're not in one studio. He's in Jefferson and I'm in Alachua, Florida. We have to make this work. So if you do hear a dog or a doorbell or someone scream or jingle bells going on, then that's probably just our lives happening around our podcast. But to get into the meat and potatoes of this, and you would really had to watch one of our brutal truth and one of our political matrix stuff. But this is not going to be a political podcast, but this will have politics in it because we are facing a different administration coming in, and there's been a lot of things change since February 9th when we started shooting YouTube videos of 2024. We started the year with doing the podcast, doing the actual budgeting book, and going through and doing that workshop. So Wade, thank you for doing the podcast. Thank you for showing up here on the screen and being a part of trying to get this, this ministry's word out, which is, what we're going to be celebrating here in a couple of days. Without the birth of Christ, there would not have been a perfect and sinless life. There would not have been a sufficient sacrifice done for us, and we would not have access to salvation without what we're celebrating in the next couple of days being true. So Wade, take the microphone and just tell us your thoughts, feelings over the last couple of weeks as you've pondered back into the you looked in the review mirror of the last 12 months and kind of give us an overview, and then I want to ask some pointed questions after that to get your opinion on some of the things that are happening with the ministry, with our country, and then maybe even tapping into the future of what some of the things that you have on your mind and planned for the future. So go ahead and give us a small recap on what you see as some critical stuff for the ministry, the Farewell My King ministry, and for us as people in the United States right now.
Great. Well, thanks, Ray. Looking back and looking forward, looking back through 2024, looking into 2025, the word that comes to mind when you swim upstream to the source is abdication. And the downstream effect is anxiety. And I'm writing a devotional essentially that is, dealing with anxiety with my own. Didn't even really know I had it. And I won't jump ahead into the book, but it is a first person testimonial, to talk about it. But again, that's downstream. Let's go to the source, abdication. I think that people who are followers of Christ, people who, even if you don't follow Christ, if you're following Christ-like, parts of our society where our laws are based on good moral, standards, good people have abdicated everything over to the enemy, and Satan has taken over the media, he's taken over big tech, taken over the educational systems, taken over the food supply. He's taken over the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, you just go down the line, and the enemy has taken these things to control them. And of course, it's easy to start accusing people of being conspiracy theorists. I'm not interested in getting into that per se, because that involves the political matrix, and we'll get back into that in a second, Ray. But when good people allow bad people to take over control of everything in society, then people are going to be stressed and anxiety is going to result. And that's kind of what I want to unpack is I think that people across the world are standing up against the oppressive totalitarian governments that say they represent the people, but they really don't. And that really is probably principle number one for us to discuss right now, Ray, is we stop paying attention to what people do and merely listen to what they say. And the enemy is behind that. So I'm going to throw it back to you to get your thoughts on that before we start rolling through.
Well, there has been a lot of change. I mean, I can remember us getting, we do our pre-game talk on this platform before we hit the record button, and I believe that there has been a lack of hope for a lot of different people in a lot of different places in their life. We have like I said, we're real people around here. We got real stuff going on. So I think what we really need to focus on as we're sitting in this month of December, which most of the time ends up leading to exactly what Wade kind of tipped his hat to. It leads to depression. It leads to anxiety. It leads to loneliness. And this is where we're supposed to be at our best and with the people who care about us the most. So my first question to you, Wade, is I believe, with every win, there is a group of people who lose. And I know, just speaking from the political scene right now, where, there was 75 million people won, but there was also right there at 70 million people that lost. I don't care what tie you wear. I care about, the morals of a human being. But the depression and anxiety that me and you have just encountered, not including ourselves and what we've had to deal with, but even outside of that, just watching our people group and our churches deal with this. My question to you would be, is moving forward into this new year, what do you think is the biggest thing that we need to keep our eyes on to get the most out of our Christian life? Where do we need to focus to eliminate the depression problem, the anxiety problem? I mean, my guy or girl didn't win problem. I mean, because hopefully there is believers here that, that their candidate didn't win. I mean, we've talked about the political matrix a few times, but, just speak on somewhat, and I want you to lean into your newest creation on this. I want you to give a little bit, not a whole lot of a spoiler alert, but kind of the reason why you started your next book and what is that about, and the reason why you're writing it, because I think that's going to answer my question the best.
Well, it's, God leaned in on me this fall, going through, testing blood work, the physical effects of long-term stress that affects people in so many ways, in the pursuit of just trying to, live a life and have a family and whatnot. The enemy has made it much more difficult than it should be. And when you travel back through time, you can see, I mean, the onerous, oppressive tax system where we're paying taxes upon taxes upon taxes. I mean, this is not something God wants, but the problem is what Satan has done is he has taken people on, every political spectrum there is, which is, if you think of the political spectrum, the political matrix is a horizontal line from left to right. And we've talked about in previous podcasts where Satan is trying to move people who are a little bit on the left to the far left, which is, a government run society, and people on the right are pushing for theocracy, which is a religious run society, when the truth is the Constitution just kind of sits square in the middle. And I'm not talking about the political middle. I'm talking about the theological middle, where respect for law, and having mercy on others and God's grace. These things are both characters of God, and it's displayed in the political matrix, but not accurately. So Satan is basically put people where they're arguing on this horizontal line between left-right politics, when the truth is we should be keeping our eye on the vertical line, which is the north-south, which is north good, south bad. It's the good and evil. And as long as we're arguing on the horizontal line, we're not going to find truth, because what you essentially have is the far left and the far right aspects of that political matrix is that they're in constant battle as to who's going to control. When the truth is, if you stick with the Constitution, people can live their life, and we can start to concentrate on the things that unite us, not the things that separate us. Because God gives us the freedom to choose. He doesn't force us into heaven against our will. So, I believe that is reflected mightily in the Constitution, which is why I don't consider myself liberal, conservative, or anything in between, not even independent. I am a constitutionalist because I think it allows me to do my job as a Christian, which is not to force a theocracy on people, or to spend all my time fighting against, your Marxist type of philosophies where the government controls, but really to live in a free society where I can write my books and share the gospel, and people can be free to accept or reject it. And that's the system that God has created, and the political system that Satan has created counters that, because it's something I heard from, I don't know if he made it up, but it was Pastor Mark Driscoll. He said, God creates and Satan counterfeits. And I think that is, you can almost do a 180 from everything that God says, which is go forth and multiply. And now what you're fighting are these people who we've conceded all of the power to in the world, these globalist types, which is real. It's unquestionably real. These globalist types want population reduction. They are avowed population reductionists, which is the counterfeit of what God tells us to do. So when you stick with the big picture and the basics, you can understand what's going on. And people, whether you're on the left or the right on the horizontal axis, need to move your thoughts to the vertical one, because right and wrong is pretty obvious. And we know it, but what happens is we get to pulling for our team and rah, 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 I'm on the right, or rah, 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 I'm on the left, and blindly follow it. And you know what? That's anti-intellectual on both sides. It is a terrible, terrible thing to defend bad policies and bad things, because if it's not representing all people, it goes against God's commands. It goes against what is fair. It is absolutely disgusting. So,
not much to add to that, because, we do have to stand in a position to say a constitutional America gives us the benefit of being able to share, not force. We're not putting a gun to your head and saying, hey, you believe this way, or I'm going to take your life. Now, we believe that it's a life-saving, and this is a life or death message, that there is only true life through the gospel. So
correct.
Don't get that kind of twisted where we do not, but our faith is not based on, hey, you believe this, or I'm going to help you get to the end. This is more of, you get to make a choice because you have free will. And just as you have free will to not drive the speed limit, or drive the speed limit, or not shop at CVS or shop at Walgreens, you still also have the opportunity not to believe in the gospel, not believe in Jesus, and live your life accordingly. And that same right is what gives us the right to actually tell that same truth. They're one in the same. I can't give you the ability to reject something if I'm not also given the ability to give something. And that's what these Marxists and some of these other countries, it ends up being determined by one person and not the people. And it's only certain messages that are allowed. And that's damaging on both sides, and I think everyone with too much power that is a human being will end up abusing it. That's just the way the world works. You give, maybe even our audience can tune in on this. They've seen someone get more power at work and it costs them some personality, or they get more money and their personality, or something changes. There's exterior factors, or I guess you say outside of yourself factors, that would dictate how someone actually lives out their life in the world. So what we've always been asking for at Farewell My King, and that's why it's Farewell My King. It's not that we think a president's our king. It's that, our biggest sin is that we make ourselves a king.
Correct.
That's what we're trying. I mean, so to define even the name of the podcast is to say, we're not fighting against a political system. We're fighting against a sinful nature in ourselves. It's the cult of me. The cult of me, not the cult of we. I mean, I'm going to face judgment on my own. I'm going to be right there by myself with Jesus and a book that my name better be in it. And I had better done, I better believed in the man who's going to stand in between me and God's wrath. I mean, and that's just, you can even not believe that that's true. I still love you. I still care for you. I think anyone intellectually you can't be book smart and not know something from all the books. And if you're going to go read the Stoics, and you're going to go read Greek mythology, and you're going to know about all the other religions, I would say that the fairest thing for anyone to do is also be just as knowledgeable about the Bible to make sure that you have all the facts. Well, so, that goes into my next question, Wade.
Okay.
My next question for you would be, what do you say to the 25, 26-year-old man or woman right now who finds no hope in this society to ever be autonomous, to ever have possessions, or even be able to put their stake in the ground anywhere because everything seems so inflated and out of reach? What do we tell these young people who are almost like being chokehold by really stupid behavior and overspending with our government?
Well, we've spent a lot of time talking about this, and there's so little hope for the younger generation. And the reason is because this push me, pull you, this, political matrix has poisoned people to stick by bad things that doesn't represent everybody. And the hope can be found, and let's just talk about just as citizen to citizen, the hope can be found in the freedom of people to be able to live, because there's always the greatest satanic concept there is consolidation of power. And when you have government taking over everything, then you are looking at totalitarianism. And the projection of things like, for example, fascism is a far left concept. Basically, fascists are socialists who are racist. So racism exists on the far left and the far right.
That's the best definition I've ever heard. Say that again. Say that again.
Fascists are nothing but socialists who are racist. So, it's all the same thing, because big government is far left, and big religion, theocracy, that's the far right. And understanding that is important, but people just listen to their team, their political team, and they listen to themselves. See, what I would advise any 25-year-old is stop doing what you and I have done, Ray, what is just natural human instinct to do. Stop trying to remake the world in your own image. Just let it be what it is. And you're going to live in a world that with people that, let me tell you, that the young man I was when I was 25 is nothing like what I am at 63. And those who have known me all these years can attest to that. Yes. When I was 25, I was about as dumb as a box of rocks, spiritually speaking.
And look, we've already had political figures call people that are younger dumb already.
Right.
I would suggest that, there is no way to have wisdom about something when you don't have experience. And right now we have even less experience in some of the younger generation because there hasn't been the experience available for them. I mean, man, walk into Walmart or walk into a fast food restaurant, you're going to find someone in their 70s in there working instead of someone that's 17. There's been a flipping of the system where people who are being retired are having to go back into the marketplace. They don't need all the stuff that a younger kid would need. I mean, we're asking them to have something that they haven't been given the opportunity to learn how to have. I mean, I don't know the stat on this, but I can guarantee you that this generation started work later in life. I mean, there wasn't hey, I'm working for a buddy at 13, or I got my
Right.
first job, get paid under the counter at 16 or 15, and you worked through high school. I mean, because we had to work through high school, Wade, so we could have clothes.
Right.
We were helping our parents raise us because they didn't have the money either. Because let's remember the 80s, late 70s and early 80s into the 90s, okay, probably into all the way to 95, where, man, if you got a job, you kept that one job for 50 years. You didn't job hop and all this stuff. And when 1975, what minimum wage was $1.65 or something like that, $1.60, $1.50. I mean, it was just a completely different world. But guess what? If you were going to buy a house in 1985, you were going to pay 18%. So the lack of hope that the kids of the 80s or late 70s had has repeated itself. You had a generation that stepped up, made a lot of money, said, my kids are not going to have to live this life. And what they've done is they've taken the absolute tool that they need to survive and taken it away from them out of love. I mean, it's like, hey, I don't want you to have to work and do some of these things, but now they don't have any skills. And I mean, hey, Wade, you've been the trucking goat for a long time. Skills pay bills. It's not how cool you are. It's not how many degrees you have. It's got nothing to do with anything but what are your skills. I mean, that's the reason why certain people can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year without degrees, because they go get skills. So I just pulled up here, Wade, if you don't mind me. You got Matthew 6, starting at verse 25. That's pretty much where Jesus. This is the letters in red. Okay, so these are letters in red. Let me see if I can pull this up. You mind if I show it on the screen, Wade?
You do. I mean, this is Sermon on the Mount stuff. This is important stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to. I might have to stop sharing and then reshare, because I want people to have hope here. And one of the things with hope is you got to know where to go find it. Can you see that, Wade? I know it's pretty hard because our window's small.
And interestingly, I've been pulling verses out of Matthew 6 for the new book that is kind of an antidote to anxiety, at least the things that I think can bring some hope. And it should be out by summer of 2025 or before.
Yeah, well, so okay, Wade has just generalized the living snot out of a daily devotional book that he is writing. So I'm going to be the spoiler alert over here. He's writing a devotional type book that's going to help people with the challenges of anxiety and depression and just plain old blahs, because I mean, life is hard, but we always tell people, hey, go to the Bible and go to God for this, go to Jesus for this, but then we don't tell them where to go. I'm telling you right now, if you've listened to this 27-minute conversation and you've gotten here, somebody or you yourself is suffering from either depression or anxiety. Depression is worried about what happened behind you. That's the past. Anxiety is worried about what is going to happen. Both of them are the same killer. They're the same Satan and the same evil, just cloaked in different clothes.
That's right.
Okay, so where do we go in the Bible to help us with anxiety? Because I see more people worried about what's going to happen than I do I think these run hand in hand. But just the first line for this reason I say to you, do not worry about your life as to what you will eat or what you will drink, nor for your body as to what you put in it. Is not life more than food and your body more than clothes? Come on. I mean, if we scroll down here, and this is my favorite verse, Wade, I say this to everybody. It's 34. So do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will care for itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. And me and Wade, we've said this a few times. Be where your feet are. Be in today. Jesus is saying right here, be in today. Worry about only today. And we have so many people who are ending their life or ruining their lives with bad stuff. You know, they're either abusing food, they're abusing drugs, they're abusing sex, they're abusing TV, they're abusing their cell phone, they're abusing porn. I mean, they're abusing stuff to try to overcome something that Jesus has just now said you should not be worrying about.
Well, you know, if we're going to go to the big picture on this, let's just, go right to it. About a little over 50 years ago, the central bank took over basically our financial system. And when we allow a government to run our life, anxiety, mental health is going to explode. It's going to affect everybody in every way. We're one of the most obese societies on the planet. And contrary to what a lot of people think, that when people are overweight, it's just because they don't have discipline. Absolutely not. It's one of the many things that people can turn to, excess food, drugs, alcohol, gambling, you name it. Even the obsession with electronics and living in the world of your own little smartphone. There are so many things that we turn to because of the lack of freedom being taken away from, and people have got to wake up. And I believe they have. And I really believe that people in their 20s don't see a lot of hope and realize, hey, this thing is screwed up. Something needs to change. And I think that's what's happening. And again, this has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with the Constitution, and it has to do with not having a government run your life. But most importantly, it has to do with stop paying attention to what these evil people are saying and pay attention to what they do, because they're liars. They represent, knowingly or not, the father of all lies. And that is the problem, where we've got to hold people accountable. If you got a video clip of somebody saying something 2 years ago and then they come back and say something different, there needs to be an explanation as to why. And this has nothing to do with political party. And see, that's the other thing is when you're placed into it, you're placed into an either or. You're either this or you're that. But God is both left and right. God is a God of law, and he's also a God of grace. And it's both things. Those are the two characters of God, and everything flows from the throne down into humanistic thought. And there's where we have missed it. We have allowed the enemy to dictate to us how to think. And I think that's changing, because these young people are smart with what you can't really have wisdom until you've lived it. So you can have the head knowledge, but living life and understanding how spiritual warfare works and surviving getting laid off and, having a mortgage and kids. That's where wisdom can come in. And there needs to be a marrying of these thoughts of younger people having some hope, and people who have lived through these horrifically difficult times, progressively more difficult since the early 70s, where the governments in this world are taking over, living through that and still providing hope to the younger people can only come from freedom. Because other than that, anyone who is trying to take away free speech is evil. I don't care where they're at on the political matrix. Taking away someone's ability to express their opinion is straight up satanic, bad evil. bad.
Well, and the good news about all this is it doesn't matter how bad a government represses or silences the Christian body, they will never succeed.
No.
Okay, but here's a reflection moment. This freedom that we experience right now is not forever.
No.
And I think we need to speak to that, is that we've had prototypes or likenesses of what life could be. You think just a couple of short years ago, everyone was mandated to take a shot. Everyone was mandated to put a mask on. And 90% of the people were mandated to stay in their home. I mean, if they can mandate this over a virus, who says they can't mandate it because of your belief system? I mean, it was a government overreach that, I think it was practice, but we have to we got to remember that there is an end of the end of a book of this Bible that we read, and that's why us as Christians, if you're a believer watching this, you have to be in this book, because there will be a day that this all comes crashing down. And the funny thing about when it comes crashing down, it's not going to feel like it's crashing down. Everyone's going to feel like it's winning and everything's getting better. And then all of a sudden, one individual human being will poke his head up above the clouds and say he's king and he's Lord. And then that's when the fight's on. We have to watch Israel. We have to watch our own country and how we behave towards Israel. I think Israel, their people, is a little different than that ground. Jesus is coming back to the Mount of Olives. He's coming back to where his kingdom was. The people there have the same choice we do, is to repent and believe in him to be in that family. So I wanted to throw one last verse about this anxiety out there, Wade. It's the same book, Matthew 6, verse 27. And who, for being worried, can add a single hour to his life? I mean, the DSM, and that's the book of all the mental illnesses that we've made up in the world, is about this big. I mean, it's like you could got to carry it in a briefcase. And we don't go to the Bible first. We go to the therapist. And I don't know if someone's looked at the word therapist, but stare at the word therapist and it'll be different. So to close us out, Wade, what's next? I want you to give us what's next. What does 2025 mean for the book ministry? What does 2025 mean for the I call it the budgeting or money ministry, and maybe even for us here on Farewell My King, the podcast? When you look into 2025, what do you see for us?
I've learned here recently in finally turning around. I've been trying to outrun anxiety and all these things. I've been fighting battles, come from a working class family and that type of stuff. And I'm finally turning and facing it. And a lot of the things that we're talking about from Matthew 6, not only am I pulling into the book, but I'm actually trying to apply. I've been running so hard, something negative happens and I just keep run. And I'm now slowing down and just taking a look and trying to enjoy life for what each day brings. And so I'm not going to go too far ahead, other than I'm probably, 25 to 30% done with the testimonial on anxiety. And just, I would encourage you to, stay tuned to things. We're going to have videos. We're going to have updates. Got a new cover coming soon. And it's something that I think is relevant. It's going to provide information. And I'm speaking to Christians in this. Certainly there's going to be some things that a non-Christian who's got an open mind could glean from it. But I'm talking to fellow Christians, because there's a lot of us who are suffering from the same things that people do in the world. Depression and anxiety. These are bigger things than I had even dreamed of imagining. And come to find out that it's the common source is the whole stage that we're living this life out on has been poisoned by the enemy. this whole ground that we're trying to put down roots in is not going to grow what we want, what, you know, how we want things to go, because the enemy is there fighting against us. So every book I have concentrates on spiritual warfare, but in particular, a testimonial on anxiety, and then see where God leads it next. I mean, I've got another 10 projects to work on, but this is coming to fruition pretty quickly. And it'll go out when it's ready. And I'm going to just try to stay within where my shoes are, because that's the mistake I've made for decades. And it has darn near ruined my life, because I'm trying to do too much. And I've allowed anxiety. I'm fighting battles that I don't need to be fighting. And you and I've talked a lot about that. So I'm dealing with it on a lot of different levels. So stay tuned for the book stuff. We got good stuff coming out. I tend to think of each book as a sort of prescription. And, you know, I know we're probably running out of time, but, you know, stay tuned. A lot of good things are coming, I believe, in our world, as people across this world take control of their own governments and cease listening to the liars who are trying to tell us they're looking out for our own good, because they are not.
Well, thank you, Wade. And I'd like to thank everyone who's made it this far. You're the true 1%er. Before we break out here, please check out Wade on his Facebook page. That's Wade J. Carey with a comma, author. He does have a website, and man, come by and see us. We're always posting some stuff. Well, like I said, we usually do kind of throttle it down in the holy month. You know, one of the 2 holy months, and you know, you got Easter and now this. But as you're walking into the next couple of days in the birth of Christ, let's please remember what this day really means, and let's be sure that we're taking personal accountability for the bigger picture and just not the feelings of this time, because the consumerism, the gift giving, all that's great. Okay. I love giving gifts. I think it's a great thing to do, but this ends up being the pivotal time. I mean, me and Wade put out budgeting stuff in February, because that's when the most divorces happen, is after the credit card bills from Christmas come in. This is a tragedy. And this is Christian homes that this happens in. And if it's happening in our Christian homes, it's happening in all of them. So my plea to you is, if right now you don't feel safe and you don't feel right and you feel uncomfortable and you feel out of control, I would ask you to get on the phone and contact somebody first. Okay, that'd be the first. You can pick up the phone, call a friend. Just 1 more minute is what I'm asking you for. They do have crisis hotlines, 588. There's a lot of crisis hotline. Search for a biblical counselor in your area. The hardest thing to do is ask for help the first time. And once you get that help that first time, you realize that help is what you needed. And it's not going to hold you down. It's going to help hold you up. You need some Christian brothers and sisters to walk with you. So I'm going to be praying for every one of you. And thank you for praying for us. Me and Wade, Wade carries a heavy burden. He's been through a lot in the last 6 months, as all of us have. All of us have been through a lot. So that we're not sitting here in our chairs with the camera on because we have it figured out. We're sitting here with the camera on because we know a lot of people have not figured it out, and we can't, by our nature, not share what we've learned. And one of the biggest things we learned right in the last couple of months is everybody needs help at one time or another. Okay, put down your pride and ego. Put down your selfishness. Put down the pain for just a moment and pick up the phone and get a hold of somebody and just give me 1 more minute. Just give me 1 more minute, 1 more conversation before you call a divorce attorney, before you grab that bottle of Jack Daniels, before you grab that gun. Please give someone an opportunity to rationalize with you instead of working off emotion. Because this season's difficult, and it shouldn't be. This should be the greatest time of the year because a man was born from a virgin. And from that moment on, prophecy after prophecy after prophecy has been fulfilled. And there's one prophecy left, him returning. That's the good news, is that book is a history book after one event. It's got one event left, and that's the return of Christ. And our Bible, no matter what version, becomes a history book. So until then, we are here to help, walk beside, and help you through these hard times. If you have anxiety, depression, money problems, career problems, hey, farewellmyking@gmail.com. Reach out to us, and we will do everything we can to help you. We're not counselors, but I guarantee you, me and him's both sat in a room with one of them at one time or another. And I'm proud to say it. I'm proud to say I actually got help. So from my house to yours, from Grayson, Wally, all these crazy mutts that we have running around here that take over Facebook pages, thank you so much for being a part of this year with Farewell My King, the Call to Me podcast. We will be signing off for the rest of the year. Hopefully to see you next year. We have a lot planned, and this is going to be great. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas
New
and
Year.
God bless.